Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another news video for Final Fantasy XIV. This time then we're talking about a particular interview that a German publication had with Naoki Yoshida of Final Fantasy XIV producer and director fame, of course talking about Endwalker and all of the current things to do with the game. I thought I'd cover this today as I thought this was incredibly important. There are some really interesting bits, and also on the unofficial Final Fantasy XIV subreddit you will find a wonderful translation by none other than the wonderful Reddit team, including Mayuna and Luna Minore and the rest of the Reddit team who work tirelessly to translate a lot of these really important interviews and Q&A things all year round. So we have those to thank for that. Be sure to check out that particular Reddit server. I'll put a link in the description of this video for you. Go show them some love. But anyway, let's read through this then, and we'll read through the translated information. So this is kind of like a summary, as well as some questions and some answers from Yoshi P himself. So first of all, apparently they want to talk about Reaper, and they describe the playstyle as still being in development, so nothing is fully set in stone. However, they can confirm that the avatar, so that's the thing that you summon, will not act like a pet as you know it from a summoner or a scholar. This was something that we already kind of guessed from now. They say, to put it simple, Reaper actions can be divided into three categories: solo actions, actions executed by the avatar, and finally combined actions with both the player and the avatar. So you've got those three different sets of buttons there that you rotate through in your rotation, as you would probably imagine. Going through your rotation will accumulate some sort of gauge or stacks, but they don't want to go into too much detail on that yet, presumably the job gauge then, but will allow you to use a strong combination action with your avatar. So as we saw in the Reaper on the unveiling, you saw there was a bit of the gameplay teaser for the Reaper where they combined into one being, so the avatar sort of possessed into the player and the eyes lit up red, and every attack was then red from there on afterwards, whereas previously there were separate entities doing separate coloured damage. I think the player was doing green damage with the Reaper, and I think it was black damage, sort of black spell effects from the avatar, but the combined effort seems to be a red coloration, so that's interesting. They talk about the design choices in the background. So apparently they'd always had a lot of feedback from players who asked for a scythe, so our design process started with the weapon this new job was going to use. Heavy weapons tend to give the image of a slow, hard-hitting playstyle, but that is not the case with Final Fantasy. Most attacks will be stylish and quick. We had a Reaper as you would see them on tarot cards in mind when thinking of the job concept, but also knew that we wanted the avatar to play an important role. If you want to think of it from a manga or anime perspective, Yagami Light from Death Note would be a suitable figure to compare it to. A normal person, Yagami Light, or in our case you, the player, enters a sort of contract with the devil, Ryuk in Death Note, or the avatar in our case, that will create a very strong being in the end. Bleach, a very popular manga in Japan, has also influenced us, but as always we are giving it our own spin and our own flair. So that's a lot of really interesting references to take note from, and that's their design philosophy for that, based on people wanting a scythe at some point. I think a lot of people have mentioned how cool it would be to have an actual scythe wielding job. We had the Black Bosom scythes added to the game and the attire a long time ago into the cash shop, if you remember, and I think a lot of people were like, wow, it'd be really cool if we had a class to go with that. Well, turns out it seems we do now, which is really, really cool. But it's nice to see the background on that. So next we come up to the miscellaneous things. These are just bits of questions and other bits of detail. So first of all, the question was, a lot of players enjoy making new characters but get scared of having to redo everything. Are there any plans to make achievements, minions and mounts, or even glamours account wide? The short answer, Yoshi P says, is no. The longer answer, there is New Game Plus if you want to play the story again, and there are Fantasia if you want to change your looks. And if you want to make a new character for RP, you get a level boost on the Mog Station, and that's the standpoint that Yoshi P and the team are taking, which, you know, read into that as you will. The next question. In previous expansions, the new areas were always geographically close. This time, they seem to be a lot more spread, and we're even going to the moon. Do you think the player experience might suffer if the new maps aren't as tied to each other as before? Yoshi P says, no, I don't think it will lead to a bad experience. All areas will be connected in some way or another. For example, if we wanted to go to Old Sharlayan, we'll be going through Limsa Lominsa, some of the new area for Radzat Han. Even in Stormblood, the Warrior of Light had to travel to the Far East. There were dungeons on the way and other encounters, but it ultimately helped the Warrior of Light get used to the new region. It will be similar in Endwalker. We're going to the moon after all. I just can't tell you how just yet. End quote. So there we go. So that's kind of sort of confirming that there'll be a dungeon maybe leading into that. They don't want it just to be like a, oh look, suddenly we're on the moon. They want there to be some kind of sense of the travel itself, or at least the first time for that thematic experience. So expect dungeons, I would imagine, for that sort of 71, 72 period maybe. Who knows? I mean, sorry, 82 period. I keep forgetting that we're going to 90 now, but there we go. Next question. The Digital Fan Fest was a great event, I have to agree personally, and the fans were really excited, but it was a different experience than being there in person. What did you personally miss the most, especially when it comes to the interaction with fans? Yoshi P says, sadly, there was no other way because of the pandemic. If the event was in person, I could have left the stage between segments, taken photos with fans, signing autographs, or just listened to their feedback about the game. When I had the audience in front of me at past fan festivals, I was always able to see how they reacted to things I said. This was obviously difficult this time, and I was able to read comments, but I couldn't see the expressions fans were making, whether they'd be angry or annoyed or happy at what I was announcing. So there we go. Yeah, I think the Fan Fest was a massive success. I thought it was lovely that it was all free. And yeah, I think the concerts were a great topper to that. I do think that we were a little bit short on information, consolidating it into one Fan Fest. But I guess that gives us more to look forward to in the future in live letters and such, talking about Endwalker, so I'm hyped for that. So now on to another very special bit then, towards the end of this, talking about Viera, Hrothgar, and their hair and hat. Question. You announced that male Viera will be added in 6.0. A lot of players are still waiting for additional hairstyles or the option to wear hats on Viera or Hrothgar. Are these being worked on and potentially introduced with the addition of male Viera? The short answer, not yet. The long answer, first off, I quote, the reason why Viera and Hrothgar can't wear hats right now is the following. We have very standardized specifications when it comes to headgear, and a unique design with the long ears on Viera doesn't always meet these specifications. If we allowed every headgear piece, it would lead to clipping or other errors. The unique design of the Viera and Hrothgar just prevents us from allowing these pieces, if we want to follow our specifications. Nevertheless, we're aware of player feedback, and we are definitely not the kind of development team that ignores their players' feedback. There were a few things we said would be impossible to do, but we worked hard on it and made it possible in the end. We have regular meetings. I was in one just yesterday, and we were planning on having another one coming up this week. Were we to discuss how to lower development costs on which options we have to add more hairstyles. The players can be assured that we are aware and are thinking about this, but I'm asking for a bit more patience and that you wait a little longer. I hope to have some good news soon. End quote. So, yeah. I mean, you know my standpoint on this from my other videos, my other opinionated things. I'll let you decide what you think about that personally. The reactions to this particular translated thing on Reddit were not exactly positive, as you would imagine. A lot of people are just a little bit upset, I think, especially when it comes to adding a new version of the race when the previous iterations of it are not in any way, shape, or form completed. It's interesting how they didn't mention the fact that you had to pay money, real money, to change your hairstyle on a Hrothgar, but there we go. I guess that's something that probably will never be addressed. Who knows? So finally then, Ishgard Housing. The question was, Ishgard Housing will be available in 6.1. Why do we have to wait until 6.1 when the restoration was such a big thing in Shadowbringers? The answer to that is, it's not that simple. We created a lot of graphics for housing in A Realm Reborn, and they all need to be adjusted. This takes time. We had to wait for expansion development to be able to add enough members to the team who are working on a graphic specifically. There also is the physical issue of adding the housing servers, which are different from the gaming servers. Players might ask why we aren't getting the new housing in 6.0, but we want players to enjoy the new content, the story, and the new jobs. We could open the areas in 6.0, but we feel like that would be too much of a distraction, and we want the players to enjoy Endwalker. The people in Ishgard want to thank the Warriors of Light for helping with the restoration and are building a new housing area for you. But even those guys need to sleep and eat, so they are taking a good amount of time to finish their work. End quote. And that's pretty much all of the summary for this translated set of interviews. Originally on buffed.de, I will have the original set of interviews for you to go and read if you're, if you speak German, and also go check out the Reddit Discord as well, and the Reddit Discord with the translation and live letters particular feed. That's where this translation was found from Meoni, who was the person who translated this off of the Reddit team. But then again, what do we think about this information? Personally, I think that as I look at this, I'm instantly sidetracked by the talking about the Viera and Hrothgar. I still think personally that that's an issue that needs to be addressed much sooner than perhaps 6.0, but I just hope that we do have a long-term solution for that. I do think that a little bit earlier with the idea of account-bound stuff, basically the long and short answer being a big no, I think that's a little bit short-sighted personally. I think that games do benefit from account-bound achievements and things like that. It does promote people from having multiple characters and enjoying themselves on multiple servers, especially when you have mounts that are purchased from a Morg Station for real money, and the majority of which are per character rather than account-bound, although lately we've seen a lot of account-bound purchases recently that are applied to all of your characters on the account. I think that it's a little bit short-sighted in my own opinion, but obviously they have their reasons for that, and they certainly want to push the sales of Fantasias. Whether or not I feel that Hrothgar requiring you to pay money for a Fantasia to change your hairstyle is predatory, well, my opinions on that. I think that needs to be fixed, if nothing else, at the very least. I don't think that that's really a very positive thing when every other race in the game can go to an esthetician and change their hairstyle. I still don't understand why they have to pay money, even if it is a different head model, but there we go. Things are impossible, apparently, so we'll see how things go in the future. But this doesn't fill me with too much confidence for those issues that people do have with Hrothgar and Viera being fixed anytime soon. Let me know what you think about this information. Of course, your feedback is always welcome. Try to keep it civil. I know some people were a bit of aggressive last time when I mentioned I had opinions. Guess what? We all have them and we're all entitled to them, but we don't have to be a dick about it. So I ask that you do the same. Let's have a nice conversation. And But on the plus side, some really good information about Reaper, and I'm really looking forward to the expansion and anything that they do, honestly, going forward. And I am looking forward to male Viera. I just want them to make it fun for everybody. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you all next time.